Welcome, everybody. This is Brett Davis coming to you from the IQ Podcast, formerly IQ Podcast, Blue Lapis Media Studio. And of course, we're wearing somewhat our blue. He's wearing more of a royal blue. But anyway, we have Dan Hom, who is the chairman and the president of Focuscom.
Yes.
And also the Lincoln Club. You are the guy with the Lincoln Club.
Well, I don't know if I'm the guy.
You are the guy.
No, Brett, it's always a team effort, right? We've got so many great folks that I work with and board members, and I'm just honored to be the chair for this. I believe it's the 40th and 41st year of Lincoln Club.
Well, that's crazy because you and I go back at least 25 years, I would think, or maybe even more.
Yeah, I remember when I used to pull up the penny saver, and there's Brett Davis, working out, and he's got you're training people at the time, and I remember I go, who is this guy? What kind of shape is this guy in? He's great.
I thought you were going to say you got the penny saver and you looked at one page and there was a most wanted part.
No, not at all, Brett.
Yeah. So I've always admired you because you've always been really community driven. You care about the community. You don't forget where you came from. And your family has been a huge institution, and it started in the South Bay from what I remember, and you can correct me if I'm wrong if there's other areas, but how do you remember growing up in the South Bay when you were younger?
Well, I went to Sunnyside Elementary School, Bonita Junior. I went to Bonita High. I've always been kind of a South Bay person, but actually our family first came to San Diego in 1848, and that was the family followed a guy by the name of Dan Hom, and he used to work as a foreman on the railroads. But at the time, many Chinese would immigrate over here to the United States, and they were called sojourners. So they would come over here, work, send money back to China, and then hopefully bring their wives over or go back to China to live the rest of their lives. However, as it goes, people would come here. They started making a life here. San Diego's a great place. And so I'm multi-generational San Diegan. My grandfather opened one of the first Chinese restaurants. It was called Chinaland. And from there, my dad owned Chinaland and two other restaurants. They were called Land of China. He'd inverted the names. So there was a different brand, but they were all over San Diego County. And growing up, we worked at the restaurants.
So that was your first job?
Yeah, first job. And, obviously, I know at one point, people know that I've always been kind of politically active, but I used to always tease people. I go, they would ask, why do you want to run or why do you want to be involved in politics? I go, I'm just used to serving people, but it just used to be egg foo young, chicken chow mein, fried rice. So,
compound chicken.
Yeah, correct. I was just used to doing that.
I should have eaten before the interview.
Yeah, that's
I'm starting to get kind of hungry because I remember as a little boy going into Hom's Teapot Inn. As a little boy. I said that right?
Yeah, it was Hom's Teapot Inn. That was owned by my Uncle Wendell.
Did you ever work there?
No, I worked at the Land of China and Chinaland.
Where was the Land of China at?
At the corner of 4th and C, across from the DMV in Chula Vista.
Oh yeah, I remember it.
Yeah,
I remember the Frosty place too.
Yeah, correct.
Right?
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, I remember.
And there was a Petco and all that stuff down there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I ate there also because I do remember going there.
Yeah.
Because we grew up in the South Bay as well, and so that I would think having to work that young, and it taught you discipline. You everything you've ever had in your life, you've worked for. I would think that one job starting out like that probably taught you a lot.
Well, a lot of times people say, you work hard, and look, I would have done anything because my family, needed to do it. When you're going through it, it's not that bad. It's actually quite fun. We did spend a lot of time, with our parents, but everything was revolved around the business and the restaurant at the time. And there's such fond memories. I obviously miss both parents. They passed away. Both of my parents had passed away.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah. But I think they instilled in my brother, my sister, and I just a really good work ethic, a good foundation, and we never really needed for much. I know some people have got 10 times worse situation than we've had, but I can tell you, I feel very blessed to at least, have gone through the growing up with my family.
Well, you've made such a huge difference in so many people's life. That's one of the reasons we honored you not too long ago as one of the top leaders in Southern California. All those individuals that were there, and you know all of them, they're like you. There's a commonality between all leaders and people that are selfless, and you are that individual. Is the person that I remember meeting years ago is the same exact person that I know today.
Well, thank you so much, Brett.
And that doesn't always happen with success. A lot of times people forget where they came from.
Yeah.
You know, but you've done an amazing job. So you go to Bonita High School. Then where did you go after Bonita High School?
So initially I went to UCSD,
Okay.
and then I was there for 2 years. It was a little tough, so transferred to San Diego State.
Okay.
So I ended up from going to San Diego State, and then I've actually been to all 3 universities here. So then when I started my golf business, which that's a whole,
I do remember the golf business.
remember I had a golf business, yeah. And
remind me, talk a little bit about that. I do remember the golf business.
well, so at the time, I always wanted to be a business person, and I remember there was a article that talked about the USD School of Importing and Exporting, like International School of Importing and Exporting, and they were like extension classes. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna try that out. And I remember my first class with a gentleman called Richard Powell, and he said, a lot of you guys want to open a import-export business, but I'll tell you what, you're not a business until you sell something. And I thought to myself, I want to sell something and tell him before the end of the semester. And so I go in there, I had no contacts, no nothing, but they used to have a thing called the NTDB, which is a national trade database.
Okay.
And you'd go to the library and basically pull up all these, they would have these reports from different, what would you call it? Different embassies throughout the world, and their reports on sports and leisure, on entertainment, on whatever. So I pulled out the one on sports and leisure and golf. And I pulled it up, and we looked, and in those databases, they give you names of distributors and retailers and people who would buy product from you. So then I knew nothing about golf. I didn't even know how to play it. So I said, so what am I going to do? How do I learn about building clubs and the industry? So I'm looking around trying to get a golf job somewhere. No one will hire me because they say, well, you already went to college or golf. So one day I just show up at this golf shop in shorts. And I said, yeah, I'm still going to college and I want to I want to work in the back room.
You changed your the way of you were doing things.
Yeah, because I would show up in a nice suit or
Right.
try to be professional.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I just wore a t-shirt and a baseball cap. And he says, oh, you got the job. Hires me. So once they hire me, they start teaching me on how to build clubs, what the lofts are,
Wow.
what the lies
Wow.
are. And
It's like learning a trade.
it was like learning a trade. But the neat thing was, at the end of each night, I would have to dump the trash into the big bin. So I dump all the trash in the big bin. So then after we work, because now it's trash, public, I turn around with my car and I pull out all the old invoices. So I learned how much they paid for a product, where they got them, who the manufacturers were, and that's how I started.
What a great story.
First,
What a great story. Wow.
well,
You were driven.
well,
You were driven.
no, yeah, well, you
Nobody does stuff like that anymore.
Yeah, people just don't do it, and you just think, and you got to find a way to learn. So, what better way to learn than to have someone pay you for it?
So that happens. Then where do you go after that?
So then, Asian economic crisis hits, and
Was that the bird flu?
No, it was all the currencies devaluated.
Okay.
So in Asia, so the Thai baht, the Philippine peso, it was devastating.
What year was that?
I want to say it was 2001.
Okay.
At that time, I remember it vividly because I was just elected chairman of the Asian Business Association. So on the one hand, here I am, I'm going in, I'm supposedly representing all these Asian businesses throughout San Diego County, and I can't keep my own business afloat. Had to BK it, had to close it down. That played a lot of, it really psyched me out at the time. But I'll never forget what my father said to me. He comes to me one day, and I was really down on myself. I had to end up selling my house. I was just, and up until that point, we were doing great. I was doing like $5 million a year, right? So I was doing fabulous, right? For a young guy,
That's really
in
good.
his, in his late 20s,
Sure.
early 30s,
Yeah.
right?
And you
Yeah.
didn't finish college.
No, I did not.
Yeah.
Did not.
You learned that trade, and you learned
Learn that trade from it. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, I'm there, and my father says, Dan, says, no one's going to ever have experienced what you experienced this early in life. He goes, take it and learn from it, and I know you'll be okay. And then that kind of gave me a little bit of confidence. Then there was one more thing that gave me confidence. People ask me politically why I like Donald Trump. Okay? I vividly remember when I was selling my home, I had a book, it was from the Guinness Book of World Records. And in that book, I was flipping through it, and I remember I'm sad and everything. And one of the things it talked about was the person who made the greatest turnaround ever. And it happened to be Donald Trump. He had lost all this money, then he regained it, right? And there was a story where they say he's walking into Trump Tower and his daughter Ivanka's with him, and they're walking in, and there's a gentleman who seems like a homeless person sitting on the curb or near the building. He says, that gentleman has more money than your father. And they looked and they couldn't understand it, but then it encouraged me, and I thought, well, if Trump could do it, I can do it. So then, turns out, I end up pursuing my dream. I run for office.
City council.
City council in Chula Vista.
That's when we met.
Yeah. I end up losing. I lose from that. And again, you learn from your losses. One door closes, another one opens.
Yeah.
Right? So that happens. And during the time of my actually running for office, a gentleman comes up to me and says, hey, I'd like to hire you. His name was Jim Bartell. He was a former city council member
I've heard the name.
in Santee.
I
Yeah,
remember
he's
the name.
very well known, and Jim's a great guy. And he believed in me. He hires me. I'm a vice president at a PR firm called Porter Novelli. And, we at Porter Novelli, we had folks like Kevin Faulkner, Adam Day, Fred Taco, Jim Bartell.
Adam Day was around back then?
Yeah, he was around back then. But so the firm actually had a lot of kind of your up and coming folks that were in politics. And then a lot of them moved on to different positions. Kevin gets elected, Jim moves on, opens his own firm.
Adam goes to Sycuan.
Sycuan, correct. And so we ended up all in different places, and then I started Focuscom. And I want to say Focuscom now is about 16 years that I've had it.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing I think, if I'm coming to you and I'm a customer, when somebody's telling you what they're going through, you know what they're telling you because you have felt it and you've gone through it.
Oh, yeah.
You get it.
Yeah.
And I would think that makes you more relatable and more trusting to a lot of individuals that are coming to you for marketing.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I always, it's not really funny, but when I'm with my staff sometimes, and in the old days, they go, "Oh, great, it's payday," and then I'm saying, "Oh, crap, it's payday today."
For you.
For you, it's payday. For me, it's payout.
So things are going great, and then what else happens? I mean, these are areas I didn't even know about. So then you start your new marketing firm, of course, and then what happens after that?
Well, so it was actually my wife that convinced me to do it.
Your boss.
Yeah, exactly. But I got to tell you, I'm extremely lucky to have. I definitely married up.
She's a wonderful person,
Yeah.
and anybody that has not met Lisa, I'll tell you, she is the sweetest, nicest.
Yeah, and she's really sharp for someone who, she wasn't born here. She was born in Taiwan, but political speak, as I say it, is kind of tough, right? But she was able to acclimate into it very easily, and she's just super sharp, very quick-witted, and she really keeps me on my toes. But she also takes care of me. So she's somebody that I really count on.
She's your best friend.
Yeah, she's great.
She's your wife. She's your business partner.
Yeah.
The mother of your how many kids?
One daughter, but one's enough. One and done. Tell me, and it's a daughter.
Well, if you remember right when we first met, I didn't have a daughter, so I had hair.
Yeah, not easy, right? Not easy. Not easy.
So Lisa's been a huge part.
Yeah, she was the one who actually encouraged me. Why don't you start your own firm? And so we did it.
Does she
Because
help? Does she help you with the business?
Yes, and she does a lot of the finance and all that. But one of the reasons was I was gun shy after closing the golf company down.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to flinch to certain things. You're going to be paranoid about. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But you got over it.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. And now I get to work with all kinds of talented people, like Lena over here, who's looking at us, sitting there. She's been great. Yeah.
So how did the Lincoln Club come about? When did that happen, and how did that come about? When did you get so fully invested with the time? Because just one of these things that we're talking about requires a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
You must live out of your car most of the time because you're always doing something.
Well, I'll tell you one of the things that my family instilled in me was always give back to your community, right? And I had the benefit of kind of having all these mentors, whether it was Susan Liu, Tom Hom, who's actually distant related to me.
We knew him
Yeah,
too.
yeah, and Tom Fat.
That's who we knew.
Yeah, so Tom Fat was
Was he a blood relative?
no, he was not, because it's fat, right, on Hom, right?
But I thought maybe there was a marriage that happened, and maybe there was a name change.
No,
But
but
you guys seem really. I remember
we were very close. He and I were very, very close.
he was a very unique individual.
Yeah, and we would tease each other all the time. We're always involved in political things and doing events for elected officials, and we always supported Asian candidates, whether they were Republican or Democrat.
Really?
Didn't matter. Yeah, we thought that it was important for our community to have a voice, and so that's how Tom and I met. And then Tom actually passed away from, a rare form of cancer.
You were at the memorial.
Yeah, I actually gave this one of the
Right.
the
Eulogy?
yeah, and but I remember when I called him, and he was still sick, but he got to the phone, and his voice was extremely weak. And I said, "Tom, is there anything I can do for you?" And like today, he just said, "You don't need to do anything for me. Just take care of the community. Take care of the Asian community. Make sure that they're represented. Make sure that they've got a voice." And I remembered that. And, I've tried to carry that on. I'm probably not as eloquent or as sharp or as great as what Tom would have done, but, I had my own way of doing it. And so
You have, and you did, and you have. And I got to know Tom because of his restaurant. That he
Yeah.
had. A very unique restaurant.
China Camp in Fat City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Denny's.
you're-
Denny's right there. Now it's a big high rise or something. Yeah.
So the thing I remember about him was he was very nice, but he told you what he thought.
Oh yeah.
So when I first started going out with my wife, we would go and eat at is it Fat City?
Yeah.
Which I love that place.
Well, which one did you go to? The steakhouse? Or did you go to
Steakhouse.
the- okay.
We
Yeah.
went to the Chinese restaurant as well, which
Yeah.
was very good. And I always
China
felt,
Camp, that
I
was
felt
China.
like I was at Knott's Berry Farm.
Yeah.
It had like the mining thing and
Yeah.
But he told me, and I was coming back from a flight from Sacramento because her family and my family's from there, and I sit down and guess who's sitting next to me?
Not bad.
Tom Fett
Yeah.
with his boots,
Oh God.
and I look down and I'm like, Tom. He says, you know that girl you've been bringing into my restaurant? I said, yeah. He says, you need to marry her.
Good for
He said,
him.
you need to marry her.
Good
So
for
the
him.
whole flight, that was part of the conversation, and community.
Yeah.
And there's not very many people that I've ever met like him, nor like it. Nobody that I can say. I mean, there's nobody like any of us anyway.
Yeah.
But he was one of those rare individuals that you will never forget. It was just such a authentic, nice person. So he made that impact.
Yeah.
And then the Lincoln Club, how did that happen?
So, and you may recall this, and I won't mention any names, but there was a mayor in the city of Chula Vista
Okay.
who both of us had helped get elected,
Okay.
and I just felt like he took the wrong direction
Okay.
and kind of got lost. Quite frankly, got full of himself, I think.
Okay.
Right? And we encouraged Cheryl Cox to run.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, no incumbent mayor had ever lost in the city of Chula Vista until then, and I had Lincoln Club help me with it. And we went in and got him unelected. And then Cheryl Cox became our mayor.
Well, I have to be honest with you. I actually remember when there was these types of challenges that were going on during that time, and there was a Chamber of Commerce breakfast at the country club, and Cheryl was there. She probably might not even remember this. And I walked up to her, and nobody was talking about anything yet, and I said, "You're going to run for mayor." She says, "Where did you hear that at?" I says, it was more of an instinctive thing. It wasn't anything I thought of. And she had not really said anything. Maybe she was thinking about it. I don't even know why I said it. But the really hard part was when you know somebody's doing the wrong things and you've committed so much energy and time, which we both did, to that circumstance of getting that person to be the best that they were and supporting them behind the scenes, and not getting any credit because we weren't doing it for the credit. We were
Right.
doing it for the community.
It's not like we're being paid or anything, right? We're just doing it for the community.
Right.
Right.
Plus, we gave our blood, sweat, and tears, and we gave money.
Yeah.
But Cheryl came to me and she says, "You're going to support me, right?" And I says, "I can't support you." She says, "Why?" I said, "Because before I knew for a fact that you were going to run, I had already given my word
To the other
to
candidate.
the other candidate." And I said, "I feel really bad because I really like you and I think you're going to do a great job." So that was one of those hard situations you go through. And I've never really talked to anybody about this. This is supposed to be your interview.
Yeah.
Now you're interviewing me.
Yeah.
That's Dan Hom, by the way. That's the Dan Hom I know. And she was a little disappointed in that. And I don't say that too often.
Yeah.
Because she ended up doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
And she got the city back on its seat the way it was. And so anyway, she did a phenomenal job. And that was a good call, by the way, by you. So the Lincoln Club comes into play with this whole thing.
Lincoln Club comes into play, and then next thing you know, it's I get pushed into leadership at the club. I become the PAC co-chair.
Were they having problems at that time? A little bit.
No, it's.
Why did they need you so much? Because I mean, you're very.
No, I don't
talented.
think I don't think they needed me. I just think like with a lot of organizations, you're in the organization, you work, and then over time you start to learn how things are done.
Mhm.
And I was given the opportunity, right? So I think that it's never like you don't anoint somebody, right? But what you do is you kind of go through the things and you identify, well, this person could be good for this, or this person could be good for that. I can tell you at the Lincoln Club, we've got an extreme amount of individuals on our board that are so selfless, that write so much money in their resources. It's a blessing to have them. And look, though I'm comfortable, but I'm not one of these guys who can write hundreds of thousands of dollars per election cycle, right? And I knew that, and I thought that that's kind of what the club needed. But I can tell you what, I've always had a lot of friends. So because of my friends, I've always been able to raise it. So I've always been able to get people to help.
They trust you,
Yeah.
and they know that they're investing in a friendship. Not only in a friendship, but they're investing in a faith and trust that they know that what you're doing is going to really take things to the level that it needs to be. And they know you're going to do a great job. They're not going to just write a check to anybody.
Well,
They trust you.
yeah, I hope that they do.
They do,
we
because
try to
they've
do our best
continued.
job.
They've continued to do it.
But-
And look at what you've done.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is now that I call and they see Dan Hom's call, no one wants to pick up the phone because no I'm asking for money.
So you've had some interesting people that you've worked with or honored. I mean beyond. I mean, can you imagine if you wrote a book about some of this stuff?
Crazy.
He's not going to write a book, by the way.
Yeah.
We're just saying, if could you imagine? But one person that comes to mind right off the bat is Steve Garvey, who's running for office.
Mhm.
Somebody that you and I grew up watching play baseball.
Yeah.
Who we loved watching. And then you got a chance to do an event for him over at where was it at?
Well, we did one at Valley High. We
Right.
did another one at a private home. Yeah, so we're trying our best to get him in there. It's tough in California.
Sure it is.
California is tough, but I've always got this hope that I remember when I was growing up, you've got your political parties, but the hatred wasn't there, not like it is now. And people would try to say, well, that's Trump's fault, or no, that's Obama's fault. It's all of our faults. I mean, I have friends that one time, I had one friend who said to me, he says, Dan, I was gonna, I know you're kind of a fan of Trump's, and I'm gonna delete you from Facebook. Right, and I said,
This is a friend?
this is a friend. And I said to him, I said, well, because I guess he made this comment, a blanket statement, that I'm gonna delete all
People support Trump.
people who support Trump on Facebook. He didn't say me specifically. So I picked up the phone, I called him. His name was John. I said, John, number one, have you ever met a US president? He says, well, no. I go, I've met 4. I go, here's the extent of it. Nice to meet you, Mr. President. You take a picture and you're gone. There's no discussion unless you're at this very, very top tier. And I'll guarantee you this. Every president of the United States is charming. Like it or not, they're people person. They're people that we look up to.
That's why they got elected.
That's why they get elected.
There's something
Yeah,
about them that
there's
they
some
have.
type of charisma that
Right,
they have,
right.
that's always going to kind of shine through, right? And so I said, but in reality, they have little control over what's going on in the entire government. The system is just so big now, and they call it a deep state. I believe that that exists.
It does exist.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, it's like
People don't believe it, but
the
it does.
bureaucracy is so strong and so ingrained, it just makes it very, very difficult.
Well, you've got career politicians. I mean, you get a president gets in for up to 8 years possibly, and then they're gone.
Very well.
And so one of the reasons why I believe in the Lincoln Club, not only is the Lincoln Club a pro-economy, pro-jobs, pro-common sense, pro-San Diego, right, organization, but it's something at the local level. We usually deal in the local level. Now, from time to time, for example, I got to meet about a week ago Speaker Mike Johnson. He was in town.
I heard that was a big,
Yeah.
it was a very successful.
Great event. It was at Pueblo.
And I heard he's a very nice person.
Very nice person, strong man of faith, sharp guy, right? Not really good guy, and it's afforded me the opportunity to meet a lot of these folks. Like we had Dana White at our annual dinner, which was a hoot, right?
Yeah, I saw a lot of videos and photos, and he seemed very down to earth.
Yeah, very down to earth, super guy.
He's known Trump for a lot of years.
Known Trump for a lot of years, and a very successful business guy.
Very
You know,
successful.
when he bought, I think one story he shared with the group, he originally bought UFC for $3 million. And everyone's like, what? But he goes, yeah, trust me. When I bought it, everyone thought I was a fool. No one thought it was going to be successful. He did it with his business partners, which were the Station brothers from Palace Station, the casino,
right.
Stations casinos.
I've stayed there in the old days a few times.
Yeah, it's a good property.
Is he still around?
Yeah, they're still around. And so they do it, and all the financial people were saying, this is the worst decision you've ever made. And then I guess he quoted, he says, yeah, now it's worth 14 billion. So obviously it was a right decision. Dana sees these type of things and, makes it happen, so.
So there's a parallel.
But what I was trying to get at was the reason why I like being part of the Lincoln Club is we deal locally. And I found that in the locals, and a lot of our races are nonpartisan. So we support Republicans, Democrats, independents, as long as you're common sense and you have kind of principles of business and particularly small business to kind of help us thrive in this area. So we just really, I really like the fact that that's something that we can touch.
And San Diego is a huge conglomerate of cultures, as well as we have military. We have a huge military. We are a huge military town, very political town. We have changed, like you said earlier. In our day, we could be friends with varieties of people, and it has changed. Well, if you're going to support this candidate, don't talk to me anymore.
Right.
And
Which is ridiculous.
I personally think it comes from, you'd mentioned Trump or Obama. I think it comes from the internet because it's so easy to react to whatever anybody puts out there, and people react right away. And then the other thing is,
I think you're spot on 100%. I agree with you. Because I think that these internet companies, they have algorithms and they know what you like to see or what you comment on.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're commenting on things, you all of a sudden start thinking, oh, everyone agrees with me. Wow. I think that, Nancy Pelosi's horrible or whatever it may be, right? Or Byron Donalds is this, or whoever's that, right? And instead, we don't do our own research anymore because we're just listening through the internet. I can share with you one other story.
sure.
And a friend of mine starts circulating a thing about it was a rumor about Tommy Hilfiger is doing an interview with Oprah Winfrey, and basically he says, "Oh, the reason I do it is because all the people of color want to buy my product, or it was disparaging towards Asians. It was a disparaging remark towards Asians. And now it's being sent everywhere. So everyone's saying ban Tommy Hilfiger, da, 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 remember that? So let me tell you what I did. I said, that doesn't make sense to me. So I called Oprah Winfrey's studio
Chicago.
in Chicago. I found the number. I researched it. I called it, and I asked, has he ever been interviewed? He's never even been on interview with us. It was a rumor. Some disgruntled employee tried to tank Tommy Hilfiger. And so I called my friend and go, see, this is the problem. We react and we don't research anymore. Like,
Well, they'll go back after something's happened already, and it's in everybody's minds, and then like even the newspapers are tracked. Oh, by the way, on this date, so and so said something, and they were misquoted them, so we have to apologize for the quote. Well, by that point, it's already in people's minds.
yeah. Well, that's one thing I would leave if there's younger folks that are watching the podcast today, right? You got to vote. You got to be a part of it, because if you don't vote, it has its consequences. If you do vote, it has your consequences. But do your research. Don't just take everything for face value. You have to dig in and really look now and be smart about, what you're voting for.
Are you concerned? Well, I already know you're concerned about this election.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about this election. We've both seen a lot of things in our lifetime. I have more fear about what potentially could happen in the United States if Kamala Harris ends up winning. And I don't think people know really what socialism or communism is. Am I being paranoid?
No, I think that
I've never been this way, by the way.
Right.
This is all new for me.
Brett, I think that in today's environment now, where we don't have news cycles, I mean, the media, give or take, it doesn't matter if it's Fox or MSNBC or CNN, everyone's got their own kind of agenda.
I don't watch them.
Yeah,
I get my information off the internet, and I research and Google everything.
Yeah. Well, I still watch them, but I flip through all the channels because I'm trying to see, who's saying what and who's, and I don't know how people do it now. I don't know who to trust, who to believe anymore.
So what are your concerns with Kamala Harris running for president, the presidency?
Well, quite frankly, I think she's an empty suit. I've never met her. I don't know her.
Well, look at her policies and look what she's voted for in the past.
Right. It's just like, I hate using this term. It's like she's flip-flopping from policy to policy.
Did you hear that a lot of the things that people are saying about her, she's saying was AI generated, and she never said those things? That's the latest thing she's trying to say.
They're gonna. I just can't believe it nowadays. I just can't believe it. I don't know. I don't even know how to answer that.
So here's the thing. Anybody that doesn't really know what communism or socialism is, but we hate Russia for what they're doing. But it's okay to vote for somebody that possibly can end up making the United States like Russia.
Yeah.
Why don't we look at it that way? And what about all the illegal immigrants that have come into the United States? What's that going to do to our health system, having to have to wait even longer when we have a shortage of doctors and nurses as it is?
Yeah.
And there's going to be a longer wait time if you don't have really good insurance and you have to have a surgery. What kind of ripple effect is that going to cause?
Well, so I don't even know if this was AI generated. She may claim that it was. That she said she was going to try to pull out all the private insurance stuff. Right, and then she made a quote about U.S. patents. I mean,
where she can take them.
Yeah. Where she goes, I can take them. Yeah, I'll just take them. Now, was that AI generated? I don't know.
I think it's very fearful when you hear things like that.
I think that when all people have to do is go to countries like Cuba or China and experience, right, what freedoms really are.
And by the way, I have friends from all the different cultures like that, and I love all of them.
Me-
But I don't think until you really have traveled, the internet has brought a lot of value to a lot of younger people's lives because they have all this wisdom and they're so smart. There's such a smart generation of kids. You can't smell the air. You can't have that conversation in person or get that instinct that you do with people traveling and going places and tasting the food and finding out what's really going on. There is a difference than just Googling and trying to find something out.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
Yep.
And until you've experienced socialism or communism and you haven't seen soldiers marching up and down the street watching you or following you, and you don't realize all the freedoms that we do have here, it's scary.
Yeah.
So you like Trump,
I do.
and I like Trump. And does it bother you that he's so boisterous and puts it out there and doesn't care what anybody thinks? Or do you find that refreshing?
No, I think that sometimes I wish that he would take it a notch back.
But you never have to wonder what he's thinking.
You don't ever wonder what he's thinking. The other thing about Trump is, I think inside he thinks this is what I had to do to win the first time. So I think part of him is just can't let go of those things. You know.
He doesn't like to lose.
Yeah. I remember I met a while back. I met Secretary Pompeo.
Oh.
And I hosted him at the University Club. And I remember there was a group of other business people in the room. And I asked him the question, I says, you know, knowing that, you know, Trump and your administration wanted to come out of Afghanistan, what would you have done differently?
Good question.
Yeah.
Very good question.
And then he says to me, he says, you know, Dan, he goes, I'm get asked this question a lot. He goes, and I'm going to tell you, I don't always agree with President Trump. That's what he said. And I know that Trump wanted to exit Afghanistan also.
Not the way Biden did.
Yeah. Well, he goes, however, when we were in that room with all those generals, and it's the same generals, I know they gave the same advice to Biden as they did to Trump. And it was not safe to go, potentially could lose American lives. The credit I give to Trump was he listened and didn't do it. Biden said, I want a date, and this is it. We're going to do it. Exited. They left, billions of dollars worth of arms there and basically armed the enemy.
So what's next for the Lincoln Club and what's next for Dan Hom?
Well, I think I'm ending up into the winter of my term. So what's next for me is obviously, as you know, I've had some health issues that I've had to deal with.
Which I think you look great.
Oh, thank you.
You do. You look phenomenal.
No, thank you. I sometimes don't feel 100% phenomenal, but you know, I've got great family, a great wife, great friends, great people in the community that have really stepped up. And you know, they always ask me, how is it that you go through this? I go, here's the secret. Actually, you guys are keeping me going. You know, it's really it's been a blessing to have all these folks and all the doctors and the nurses that have taken care of me. I think it's great. So from that standpoint, I'm waiting for a kidney transplant, and thank God for little sisters, right?
That's your sister's kidney.
My sister's gonna donate a kidney to me, and so we're scheduled to do that at the end of September. And then, you know, for the Lincoln Club, we're just going to continue and focus on one of our major races, and that major race is Kevin Faulconer. Yeah, we're going to channel a lot of the resources and try to get Kevin elected. I think he'd be great. He's been working extremely hard. He's well versed. He knows the issue of homelessness, and he's a pretty moderate person, right? I mean, people say, oh, he's one party or another. Remember, county supervisors are nonpartisan. Kevin's a moderate. You know, I've obviously known him since college. Great guy, hard worker, knows his issues. He was the guy who helped us during the homeless crisis in San Diego. Yeah, I think he's our
I
person.
think so too.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to seeing all the great things. I always enjoy our time when we talk. I always learn things from you. And thank you for your time.
Yeah. Yeah. Likewise.
I appreciate
Thank
you. Thanks
you.
for what you do.
Thank you.
I want to thank Dan Hom for being here today. It's always fascinating talking to him and all the great things he's doing with the Lincoln Club and in the community. Everybody have a nice day and take care and be nice to each other.